Yeah, the Erie County District Attorney gave us the most clear timeline of events that led to the death of Nurul Amin Shah Alam. That timeline begins almost a year before he was reported missing to the day. 2 on Your Side has obtained documents from Buffalo police that state the 56-year-old man was arrested last February for allegedly trespassing in a woman's yard and hurting officers. The DA says a federal immigration detainer was issued after his arrest, although we have not confirmed his immigration status. The DA adds he was in custody at the Erie County Holding Center up until last Thursday, when he posted a reduced bond as part of a plea deal. But he apparently went missing that same day. His attorney filed a missing persons report stating deputies released him to Border Patrol agents on a detainer. However, Border Patrol has not directly confirmed whether they took him into custody. One local immigration attorney says she believes a lack of communication from the agency could have led to unfortunate consequences.
They're not required to tell a family member. So from time to time, this happens. And there's a lot of foreign nationals in criminal custody that get released into Border Patrol or ICE custody. That happens all day, every day, all throughout America. So this is really, really unfortunate. And it just seems like maybe there was a gap in communication.
The DA says his office only learned of the release yesterday. Buffalo police put out a call to the public to help find him, and he was found dead on Perry Street around 8:30 last night. We've been told Border Patrol is working on a response to our request for more information. On Your Side, Chelsea Swift, Channel 2 News.
A timeline created by Buffalo police first illustrate when 56-year-old Nurul Amin Shah Alam was arrested for allegedly trespassing and assaulting police officers. Just today, Buffalo police also releasing this body camera footage, which shows the moment of the arrest and communication barriers present between Shah Alam and law enforcement. After his arrest, we were told by the sheriff's office that an immigration detainer was lodged against Shah Alam. The district attorney's office says his bond, which was set at $25,000, was eventually lowered to $5,000 last June. That's also when we were told today by Shah Alam's attorneys in a letter that he was bailed out, but we are not sure by who. His attorneys say that he was released into Border Patrol custody, the agency who then dropped Shah Alam off at a Tim Hortons near his last known address sometime after 8 p.m. But they say that the location closed around 7 p.m. that night, and his family no longer lived at that address. The attorney's letter went on to say that Shah Alam spoke almost no English, suffered from severely impaired vision, and had other health issues. But in a statement last night, Border Patrol said he showed no signs of distress, mobility issues, or disabilities requiring special assistance. That takes us back to the Buffalo police timeline, where a missing persons report was filed by his attorney on Sunday afternoon. That report claims the attorney was unable to locate Shah Alam despite contacting federal authorities. He was ultimately found dead 2 days later on Perry Street. And while the report says officers were able to see preliminary autopsy report findings, the county medical examiner clarified this evening that the cause of death is still under investigation.
We believe that we shouldn't continue to have these agreements.
The assembly sponsor of the bill, Bronx Democrat Carinas Reyes, also says it would bar sheriffs who run county jails from renewing any existing immigrant detention contracts and force them to terminate any existing agreements if they have them. Currently, there are a half dozen county jails across the state which do. The bill has already moved into committee for the first time since it was originally introduced 5 years ago, and Reyes talked about why it's found legs.
When the governor talked about kind of a package of immigration bills, one of her proposals, is not the entirety of the bill, but one of them was to end IGSA agreements. These detention agreements are IGSA agreements. And that's a huge part of the Dignity Not Detention bill.
Having those contracts with local jails reduces population at ICE's own facilities, such as the one it has in Batavia, which are brimming under the Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigration.
Isn't there a danger of someone being picked up, let's say, in Buffalo, in Western New York, but then, because there's no room at the inn nearby, and they can't house them at the Erie County Jail or the Niagara or the Genesee nearby, that they end up getting shipped off to Minnesota or Texas or someplace like that, away from their families.
We understand that this can also this could be a potential consequence of them ending these contracts. But I think the idea is that they shouldn't continue to detain people without committing a crime.
Outside of having entered the country illegally, Niagara County had an IGSA but modified it just last month. It no longer accepts ICE detainees held solely on civil immigration violations. However, Sheriff Mike Felicetti said his office will continue to house those charged with crimes or whose arrests have been approved by a judge, and will continue to work with ICE.
The union representing corrections officers says this isn't the first incident involving the 34-year-old inmate. According to the Department of Corrections and Community Supervision, the incident happened Monday inside a classroom at Lakeview Shaw Correctional Facility. Doc says an offender rehabilitation coordinator, or ORC, was hit in the head and face multiple times by an inmate. The union claims as the counselor tried to get away, the inmate continued to assault her, causing her to fall and hit her head on a metal desk. Security staff responded and restrained the inmate. The union says the counselor suffered injuries to her jaw, head, and neck. The union also says the correctional officer was diagnosed with a concussion and that it took 4 officers to restrain the inmate. The union claims the officer was punched in the head. The incident is sparking reaction about the HALT Act, a state law that limits the use of solitary confinement in correctional facilities. Senator George Borrello believes the law should be repealed and believes workers need more protection.
They're in prison because of their own actions. No one's fault inside that prison other than their own for being in prison. Therefore, they need to be restrained if they want to be taught classes, if they want to receive health care or be transported, whatever it is. There needs to be mandatory restraints in place. And this is something that it should not be negotiable.
Doc says this investigation is ongoing. They add, the department has zero tolerance for violence of any kind, and anyone engaged in misconduct will be disciplined. And if warranted, incidents will be referred for outside prosecution. Governor Kathy Hochul also issuing a statement saying she will work with docs and lawmakers to explore ways to improve the system and ensure facilities are run in a safe and efficient manner for all. The union says the inmate was transferred to Attica Correctional Facility. On your side in Chautauqua County, Courtney Courtwright, Channel 2 News.
Mayor Sean Ryan is delivering on that transparency promise he made on his first day in office. Today, City Hall released 3,000 pages and 12 hours of audio related to the DJ Granville internal affairs investigation by Buffalo Police. When 2 on Your Side examined the files earlier this week, the biggest revelation we've seen so far is that Lieutenant Esquilin called then Chief of Detectives Craig Macy shortly after the crash happened. Esquilin is the sister-in-law of Granville, and Macy later told internal affairs investigators that he considers Granville a friend. Both Esquilin and Macy told investigators that it was a casual phone call and she was simply seeking advice about the situation, but Macy was not her supervisor. The mayor today encouraged the public to go to the City of Buffalo Freedom of Information portal and download the files to look at them and draw their own conclusions. He said he did not do a full review of the files himself and did not want to come to any conclusions. Mayor Ryan says he stands by the commissioner and that his transition team knew about Macy being contacted that night shortly after the crash.
Mr. Macy didn't offer his resignation because the information you're hearing today is not new to me. I knew this information before I asked Commissioner Macy to be the commissioner. He was very forthright through the transition process. This information is in this internal affairs file, and I think you should release it. And I'm in there. And here's how I'm in there. He explained that because of the lack of accountability in the rank and file of the police department over the last year, that when officers needed questions answered, the rank and file, the brass wasn't answering the phone calls. So he said his phone often rang after midnight because he was one of the only few people with rank who are actually doing their jobs and accepting phone calls.
Mayor Ryan also pointed out that Commissioner Macy has issued several new general orders to Buffalo Police, including one focused on establishing a conflict of interest policy, so responding officers have clear direction about whether or not they should remain at a scene if there is a perceived conflict. Now, this is a massive amount of files released as part of the internal affairs investigation. We are going to continue to comb through them and bring you any new information we discover. But again, you can download those files yourself. We have a link posted right now on WGRZ.com. On your side in Buffalo, Nate Benson, Channel 2 News.
State lawmakers from this area are seemingly closing the door on this idea for upstate mass transit funding, which surfaced again during a February 3rd state budget hearing on transportation.
Right now, what we're proposing is a DMV fee that is currently in place downstate. We're just asking for equity and parity, that's extended to upstate. It's a DMV fee, which is $25 a year.
To clarify, from the presidents of the New York Public Transit Association, their suggestion: add an additional $25 annual surcharge on your DMV fee to register your car.
There's about 5 million registered cars in upstate, so it would raise around $125 million.
The association says this additional funding, similar to what's now collected from New York City metro area drivers for that city's MTA transit system, would help upstate transit systems like the NFTA with deficit issues and to provide better worker mobility, economic development, and reduce air pollution and traffic congestion. But for state lawmakers from Western New York on the legislative transportation committees, this extra fee on car registration seems to be a non-starter.
We carry the highest tax burden in the country. We have obstacles to our businesses, to the cost of living for our families, for eating, for playing, for working in New York State, and we just can't keep taking more from people. And as a state, we disproportionately send more money downstate in support of that system than we do to upstate transit systems, which I think needs a rebalancing. But taking more money out of people's pockets or out of businesses' pockets is not the answer.
Assemblymember Karen McMahon saying with affordability concerns for residents, it is not the time for additional fees. And while we need to strengthen transit systems, this would be an undue burden. Also, State Assemblymember Patrick Kluczynski says he's opposed in part because of higher car insurance rates and a new violation point system with higher fees to drive up cost for car owners.
The Chautauqua County Jamestown Airport is prepping the runway with hopes that in the near future, commercial air service can be restored. John McAmer is the county's director of airport facilities.
We submitted an application for restoration of our central air service to the Department of Transportation in May.
The airport lost commercial service in 2018 because it couldn't maintain the minimum number of passengers needed per day. But McAmer says a recent study showed strong support, enough to prompt the county to make a pitch to the feds alongside Southern Airways.
We've determined that there's approximately around 1,500 passengers daily within a 90-mile radius of Jamestown. And actually, about 60% of those are in about 45-mile radius. So the demand is there.
The closest commercial airports to the Chautauqua region, Buffalo, Erie, and Bradford, require travelers to drive over an hour.
And that's one reason we really feel that there's a demand for the service. So in order, for example, to come into the institution, the Comedy Center, that might look like a flight into Buffalo, an hour and a half drive. Here in Jamestown, we're 20 minutes.
The airport is already federally certified, and they're preparing for a major terminal upgrade, the first since the early 90s, to help strengthen their case.
We've been doing a lot of work on our terminal, designing our terminal, looking to upgrade the space. We've put together a design which will really create a more vibrant, modern space, ADA compliant space, and energy efficiency.
The scope of construction is contingent, McAmer says, on what federal and state funding the airport can secure. But he says it would be paid for using aviation user fees like seat and fuel surcharges.
We're told DPW crews are out filling potholes across the city, but as you can see, there are still some that need to be taken care of. Now, several Buffalo Common Council members say they've heard from constituents who are reaching out about potholes in their neighborhood. Councilman Rashid Wyatt says he's optimistic that these potholes will be taken care of in the next month or so. Downtown Buffalo is also filled with potholes, and DPW Commissioner Nolan Skipper says crews are actively cold patching in several neighborhoods. Councilman Wyatt says he's received many complaints about potholes on Bailey Avenue. He says some residents in his district say potholes have destroyed the front end of their cars. Wyatt says he believes there might be more potholes this year because of the below freezing temperatures we've seen this winter.
I've hit one myself, and I know the damage that can be done, especially with maybe some older cars. That damage can be really something that is in some cases insurmountable. I'm optimistic, at the mayor ran on this, so we're looking for him to follow through and make sure the constituents see that what he ran on, he's going to keep his word on.
Driving around the city of Buffalo, we noticed several areas where potholes have been cold patched in the last week or so. City officials recommend calling 311 to report potholes in the city. DPW Commissioner Nolan Skipper spent some time during committee meetings to explain the difference between hot and cold patching. He says the department plans to use both techniques to address the issue. On your side in Buffalo, Chelsea Swift, Channel 2 News.
New changes are coming to the work and reporting requirements for certain SNAP recipients.
Starting March 1st, New York will need to roll out these work reporting requirements and roll them out to even more people than were previously subject to them.
Under these new work guidelines, able-bodied adults without dependents, defined as adults ages 18 to 64 who do not have children under 14 in their household and are physically and mentally able to work, will be required to work at least 20 hours per week or participate in qualifying activities, including job training, job search, or volunteer service.
Our fear in this is that people who would qualify for an exemption or are working and, should still continue receiving SNAP benefits get caught up in the paperwork and don't recertify the right way and therefore lose SNAP benefits.
As the changes begin to roll in, local food banks like Feed More Western New York are ramping up outreach efforts.
We try to make sure that everybody who qualifies for SNAP is receiving the benefits that they need.
Statewide organizations say this change could have a ripple effect.
It will affect several 100,000 people.
Krista Hestorfer is the director of public affairs at Hunger Solutions of New York. She says SNAP is an essential program, highlighting the increasing numbers of food insecurity in New York State.
It actually increased by about 36% comparing the most recent USDA food insecurity numbers to the prior report.
And that's why Feedmore says families need to know where they stand.
Make sure that you are reaching out to your county to find out about whether you need to recertify.
The Warsaw Central School District held its first board meeting since canceling its varsity and JV basketball seasons following an incident that happened on the team. The meeting started out with the board opening up the floor to the public, and one parent said she's seen this kind of situation before.
Not again. Not again. I told them I was not going to tolerate it. I guess I will come back. Not again.
Parents got their first chance Tuesday evening to face district leaders after learning of that investigation and the end of the basketball season for dozens of student athletes. Among them, former teacher Laura DeBotts.
I just am saddened by what happened, and I'm saddened by it because it's not the first time it happened under the leadership of the people on that basketball team.
DeBotts refrained from sharing details about alleged issues with district leadership in the past, but claims recent calls for change have largely been ignored.
Truth be told, our administration has changed. Our supers are different.
Others in attendance also demanding action.
A child's life is never going to be the same.
She's not wrong.
And you'll sit there like it's no big deal. That's huge.
The investigation is ongoing, and we're still waiting for new details from the district clarifying what happened and who was involved. On your side in Warsaw, New York, Nate Mills, Channel 2 News.
In its first month, more than 175 people in crisis have turned to the Best Response Intensive Crisis Stabilization Center on Niagara Street.
It means everything. The need has always been there, as we know, and the community is ready and reaching out to us and coming to our center.
It's a first-of-its-kind facility in Western New York offering immediate help for anxiety, depression, substance use, or any other mental health crisis.
We utilize the phrase recipients of our care. They can stay up to 23 hours and 59 minutes. However, what we've seen so far with our early data is that our recipients are typically staying anywhere around 4 to 5 hours. In comparison, the wait times within our hospital settings are much longer than that.
And so far, more than 24 children have received treatment.
The center, although one building, is separated down the middle with a big wall so that our children's services and our adult services stay separated. They never commingle.
Best Self's VP of Clinic Services and Care Coordination, Paige Hawkins, says the biggest impact so far may be reaching people who otherwise would have not sought out help at all.
It is a very calm environment, and a lot of the feedback that we've already received really sends that message home.
The center is open 24 hours a day at 430 Niagara Street. Anyone experiencing a mental health crisis can walk in or call 716-961-7400.
We are the place now that you can come to, irregardless of insurance, what your presenting concern is, what you define as a crisis. We are here and our doors are open.
On your side, Lauren Hall, Channel 2 News.
Buffalo's new director of development, Andrew Federick, has a message for business owners across the city.
We're here to help. We're here to do whatever we can to do to keep them going and to make them successful.
Since 2025, dozens of businesses across the region were forced to close their doors. Federick says the pandemic had a significant negative impact on the economy and cities across the nation. He says in order to re-energize Buffalo, downtown must transition from a 9-to-5 workplace destination to a 24-hour city.
And the only way you do that is by creating housing where they can come and live and where they have amenities in order to be able to live. So office conversions is going to be a big thing.
The city is working to identify properties that need help and projects that have stalled. He provides examples including AM&A's, the Buffalo Grand Hotel, and the Statler.
Infrastructure is something that can't be ignored when we talk about downtown development. There's been a lot of neglect, unfortunately, with infrastructure downtown.
Federick says the city may need money from the state or resources from the Erie County Industrial Development Agency. He says he spent the last 4 years working with that agency as the director of property development.
Working on the redevelopment of the former Bethlehem Steel site in Lackawanna, working to transform that from kind of a vacant piece of land into a 21st century business park.
Before that, Federick worked for the Erie County Executive as a senior economic development specialist during the pandemic.
I have a lot of experience with businesses, just a lot of experience with the economic development team overall, and just really excited to be here and to be impacting the city.